Hello everyone, Max is back here, and this time we have another raid battle video. This time going over how best to defeat GRENINJA in its mightiest 7-star raid battles. We have Mr. Ace Trainer Al.
Yes, and today Meta will be explaining the best Pokemon to bring for the 7-star Terra-type Poison GRENINJA raids that are coming soon, alongside with their best stats, movesets, and items. Meanwhile, on my end, I'll be explaining the best strategy on how to use these Pokemon to one-shot the raid. So without further ado, Meta, show them what they'll need to bring.
So, GRENINJA. This thing is pretty terrifying. It is a glass cannon, which normally isn't a problem. However, it is a poison type that still retains its dark and water stabs. This is a big issue because the only two things good against poison are psychic and ground, both of which get bodied by water and dark. But as for the stats of GRENINJA, we should probably be covering that. It is a speedy glass cannon with decent mixed offensive stats and relatively poor defensive stats. So, your best option, hammer this thing as hard as you possibly can. If you can survive a hit, which is somewhat easy to do given it will not have the same stat investment, you can bulldoze through this thing, not with the move bulldoze, but with a strong psychic attack. The tricky part is GRENINJA will always be outspeeding you. Almost every single option that can be used against GRENINJA will be outpaced by it. The other problem is the moveset. GRENINJA gets a pretty wide coverage moveset that covers almost every single one of its bases, which will restrict your offensive options. But that's what we're here for, to help give you what those options are, how to build them, how to acquire them, and how to pummel this thing, which will be on Al's side. Before we move on, I would like to ask you guys if you would not mind leaving a like and subscribe to both myself as well as Ace Trainer Al. It very much helps support the both of us, as well as help making these guides for you guys to beat down these raid bosses. So, let's get into our options. If you want to use, say, a Psychic type, you need a Psychic type that is not weak to Dark. The problem is, almost all of these are Fairy, who are weak to Poison, which means if it gets Terra Blast or Gunk Shot, it will body them. They will not be a viable option. This restricts your pool of viable Psychic types to pretty much one. I'll be going over that. And the same actually holds true for ground types. However, these don't have the same innate power as Psychic options because they are the quickest. And now for what we're punching up against. These raids have 7,500 HP, so we need something capable of clearing that damage benchmark in a single hit. And this is actually quite possible, and there's one Pokemon the most easily capable of performing this feat in the quickest possible time, only requiring a single turn to deliver that finishing blow. And that is Gallade. There's a very specific way this thing needs to be set up, and that is with the new ability Sharpness. This was a fantastic buff to Gallade as it boosts the power of its cutting moves by 50%. This applies to Psycho Cut. When paired up with Psychic Terrain, a Helping Hand boost, a +2 to Gallade's physical attack, and a -4 to GRENINJA's defense. 7,800 damage when equipped with a Life Orb and Adamant Nature and 252 attacking EVs. It does require the EV spread to be present, as without this, there is a very, very slim chance there's only a single damage roll capable of knocking it out. This sheer amount of damage will allow you to cleanly knock the GRENINJA out. Unless they have massively buffed GRENINJA's HP in comparison for this, GRENINJA's Glass Cannon nature lends itself very easily to be knocked out. So, as for the specs for how you're going to want to build this Gallade, of course it is going to need the Sharpness ability, as it buffs its power. This is a standard ability, so all you need is an ability. All you need for this is an ability capsule. This can be purchased at... The ability capsule can be very easily obtained from Chansey's supply stores after completing the main story, as well as if you have done any level 5 raids, they have a chance of dropping these. For its moves, you're only going to need 2. You're just going to need Swords Dance and Psycho Cut, as we've already mentioned. Much like the ability capsules, the mints can be obtained from Chansey's supply stores. You're going to want the Adamant Mint for this. Give that to the Gallade, it will boost its physical attack to the highest it can possibly be. Much like before, the EV items can be purchased at the Chansey supply store. You're going to want 26 proteins or you can go for 25 proteins and get 2 muscle wings. These can be found on the ground and are relatively easy to get. The other way of getting EVs is to go and battle wild Pokemon. If you're going to go the method of EV training by knocking out Pokemon, the 2 best options to go that are relatively easy to find are Paldean Tauros and Flamigo. These will give 2 attacking EVs each, as going out and just simply buying the necessary proteins can get very, very expensive. This is really the only EV investment you need to apply to the Gallade, as there is no chance that Gallade will be capable of outspeeding Greninja, so you will always move second. If you want, you can go for HP, but this really is up to you. For Gallade's Life Orb, there are 2 places you can get this. The first one is in Lake Casaroya, on one of the islands. It will always be there. Pick it up, there's your Life Orb. For those who have beaten the game, it can be sold in the Mezagoza Deli Presence, though this is only after beating the main storyline, so that requires beating the game. So it is going to be likely easier just to simply go to get Lake Casaroyas. Now that we have Gallade all situated and the damage is already established, it's now time to go on for your support Pokemon. Really, you only need one other specific support Pokemon, and this is Indeedee. Indeedee is critical because of access to Psychic Surge. Psychic Surge, as you may know, increases the damage of all Psychic-type moves used on it by 30%. This is essential for juicing up Gallade's Psycho Cut to its maximum power. In the same vein as this, it will be having Light Screen or Reflect, depending on the kind of set that Greninja is running, and the second move is going to be Helping Hand. First turn, all it's got to do is click whatever screen corresponds to what Greninja's moves are. Most likely it's going to be Light Screen. And then, the second turn, you Helping Hand the Gallade. This will get Gallade to its maximum power. Because Psychic Surge is the hidden ability, you are going to need to do some Terra raids specifically for Indeedee, or use the very rare ability patch, which you can only get by doing level 6 Terra raids, unfortunately. Though, if you don't have access to this, you can tech on Psychic Terrain as a move in place of the screen, and then follow up Helping Hand the next turn. For its EV spread, you're going to want to go Max Bulk. So a Calm Nature is what you're going to be wanting for this, as that will decrease physical attack, increase special defense. Or you could go for a Bold Nature, which would increase physical defense, but likely Greninja is going to be going specially based. For EVs, 252 HP, and depending on what its moveset is, either 252 defense or 252 special defense. Again, likely it's going to be specially focused, so special defense is the one you're going to want to prioritize. And much like before, you can get the vitamins at the Chansey Supply Store. It's very expensive though. Item really isn't overly important for Indeedee, as it's all support, and this fight is going to be over in 2 turns anyway. But if you feel the need, the Culber Berry will reduce Dark-type damage being dealt against it for a single usage. And now we get to... This really isn't a specific Pokemon that is necessary per se, but rather a pretty large group of them. And this is your Screech support. The reason we say fairly nebulous is really all these Pokemon's job is to just spam Screech. And because a pretty wide number of Pokemon get access to Screech and are actually quite well suited for this, there's a lot of picks. You've got Revavroom, Umbreon, Koraidon, Bisharp, all of which are very good options for this. They have the bulk to take anything Greninja's capable of throwing at it, throwing out that Screech in return, dropping Greninja's defenses, and allowing the Gallade to go for the sweep knockout. For all these, the same stat spread as what the Indeedee had is likely going to be useful here. Careful Nature will be used if you want to decrease special attack to increase your special defense. And an Impish Nature will decrease your special attack but increase your defense if you want to use this for anything else. But even beyond those ones listed before, you could even run possibly something like Voltorb with Screech. and just put a Violet on it or Electrode, because they also get Eerie Impulse, which would help decrease Greninja's special attack damage. But this is a fairly gimmicky thing. The reason I don't recommend that, and I recommend the others, is it is a good idea to equip them with either the Wide Lens or the Zoom Lens. Screech is a double drop to physical defense. However, it only has an 85% chance of hitting. Now, I say only, that is still a very reliable move. It's only a 15% chance of missing. But for something like this, if you want to minimize your odds as much as possible, you will want an accuracy boosting item, so something that is capable of chunking a hit is your best play. There are two options for this, and I did say that there were two with the Wide Lens and the Zoom Lens. They do operate fairly similarly, but the Zoom Lens is much more specialized. The way the Zoom Lens works is it will boost your accuracy by 20%. Note, this is 20% of the base accuracy value. So it's not like a 20% boost to an 85% accurate move is, 105% accurate. No, it's 20% of 85. Which would make it a 102% accurate move, so it will always hit. However, the Zoom Lens only works if you move after the target. Which is why something that is a slower Screech user would actually be preferable here. Revavroom, Umbreon, fantastic for this. They have the bulk to take anything Greninja is capable of throwing at it, and throw that Screech at in return. If you are instead opting to use the Wide Lens, this is a 94% accurate Screech, so still fairly accurate. And because the weird turn order of Terra raids, it may be preferable. So it's basically perfectly accurate, but may not work exactly correctly because of the way raids work, or not guaranteed, but generally more reliable, assuming Terra raids work the way that they are supposed to. I would pin my hopes more on the Zoom Lens than the Wide Lens, though. Both of the lenses, the Zoom and the Wide, can be acquired in Levencia, I believe that's how you pronounce the name. It's wherever the place is that you fight Aono. It can be acquired from the Delhi presence there. The Wide Lens is always available. The Zoom Lens requires you to get 4 gym badges in order to get it, but considering in order to do these raids you're likely going to have beaten the game already, this is a bit of a non-factor. And those are the sets you're going to need for this. Really, any Screech user can be used here, you just need to make sure it doesn't die. But yeah, there's actually a good number of support options for this. It's just that the damage dealers are very, very specialized. The reason for this, as we went over before in the beginning of the video, stems from Greninja's very powerful coverage options. It can cover its weaknesses extremely well, limiting your offensive responses. However, they do still exist, and they can deal with Greninja quite easily, as we have managed to demonstrate with the way we have built them. And just one final reminder, I'd like to ask you guys, if you have not done so already, please do not forget to subscribe, as well as leave a like, and comment your thoughts below. Any strategies your guys are going to be using against Greninja, any thoughts you guys have had, and maybe we may even make one of these things on potential ground types that are useful. They're not as good as the psychic types, but hey, you might want to use something that's a little bit offbeat. And now, I'll let my friend Al take it away. So go over to his video, and let's rock and roll.